Go Buffs!
Welcome back into the Denver Sports Betting Show here on Mile High Sports 98.1. Anthony Gabriel, and joining us on the show again, recurring guest, one of my favorite guests, Big Dog Chico. Chico, our CU insider. Buddy, how are you? Good to have you back on.
Great. Thanks for having me, Sham. I'm good to go. Very excited. Off season going on right now. A lot of predictions, a lot of things going this way and that way. So, excitement out there. So I'm ready to talk about it. Let's get it.
That's an understatement. It's there is no offseason in college football anymore. I mean, these guys and the way they got to recruit is just incredible. I don't know how they do it, but we're 2 days removed from signing day, and obviously the big news, we got to get right to it. The big struggle for the Buffs this year was that offensive line, and Jordan Seatan was the guy that they were going to be bringing in to help shore up that line. But now we've got some question marks. What's the latest? What are you hearing about Jordan and where he might? Is he going to be a Buff? Where do you think he eventually lands now?
I'm certainly hoping that he'll be a Buff. I'm thinking that at the end of the day, the guy's taking his time. It's a tough decision. It's the most important decision of your life as a young fella. I just hope that he has people around him that's helping him make this decision. We've seen on live stream where he was kind of getting what he said in the interview recently that he was doing the recruiting, and now since those guys have now signed, he's kind of being recruited now. So he might be kind of torn into where he wants to go. Does he want to go follow friends? Does he want the friends to come with him? I was kind of like in a similar situation where I was going to college. I wasn't a high recruit like him, but I was going to college and I was trying to get my friends to come join me and to go with me. So at some point you have to realize, hey man, this is my journey. I got to make the decision for myself. And the best decision for myself may not be going to where my friend is or even having my friend come with me. My journey is my journey. So I think he'll eventually come to that with some good heads around him, and he'll eventually be a Buff. And I'll welcome him in, even though he might have taken some time to make his decision.
Yeah, it's one of those things you mentioned. It's such a big decision. You got to remember these guys are 18 years old. I think about back to when I was 18 years old. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm still trying to figure it out. So, and this is a guy that he seems like just a great kid, and he'd be a great landing spot. And you just hope, like you said, it's a big decision. You take your time, and you want to get it right, and that's part of when we look at signing day, it's so different now because it used to be, you have the tape, you have the table of hats and, you put it on and that's where you're going to go. Now you might need to hang on to those other hats because you might end up in one of those schools next year. So
that's the thing nowadays. These guys can commit to a school, sign to go to a school, and then the next year be out of that school. So, it's so much like free agency nowadays in pro sports that we're seeing in college football now. And I think it's just going to continue to accelerate as far as paying the players. And these players will have a lot more freedom to where they want to go and for what reason.
Yeah, when you look at it, I think it's there's like with anything, there's good and bads, and it's great for the player because if a situation doesn't work out for a kid, he's got that freedom to move on and go to what might work better, whether it's going back closer to home or just getting out of a situation where you get more playing time. But it's been gasoline on the fire here in just such a short amount of time, and Deion's been he's been on it. When you look at while their high school recruiting hasn't been up to what some other schools are, the transfer portal is really what's getting all the credit because you've got established players, guys that already have been in the system, have been through college, and back-to-back years he's had the number one transfer recruiting class. So I think he's taken a different approach, and it made some strides this year. And I think it's just we're gonna see how it plays out because this is new for everybody right now, and he's kind of, I think, ahead of the game in recruiting the portal.
Yeah, I think so too. Like you said, back-to-back years at the top of the transfer portal class. And I think this year has to be noted that although we only brought in 5 guys, these are quality players that we've brought in. 3 4-star guys, and they all have like, even if we only brought in this small amount, we're still behind Georgia as far as the ratings go for the bringing in these recruits. We might be at the bottom half in the Pac-12 for overall, but as far as the quality of players go, we're number 2 behind Georgia according to 247 Sports. So I think we have to take a different approach, use some different lenses, and see what Coach Prime is doing. And I think he's bringing in these portal guys to supplement the players that we already have. He feels like we're great at the skills position. We can compete with anybody at the skill position, but we have to shore up this offensive and defensive line, this front, linebackers, tight ends. We have to supplement the guys that we already have with some big time playmakers. And I think that's what we've done on the offensive line, bringing in guys who have starting experience, who have pro grades. Coach Prime have really honed in on that and harped on that when we've had these interviews that these guys are pro rated players that we're bringing in. Mayers, Tyler Johnson from Houston, Benson. Also, these guys have pro grades on them who are expected to be drafted at some point coming up after they get done playing college football.
Yeah, and you talked about they had the players at the skill position, but you need those big time, those the big uglies, the guys up front on both sides of the ball to get to where get that. So when I think as an outsider, as a player, you see how exciting it is and the talent that they've got. That's only gonna make man. I can do some work here with these fellows. I'm gonna get myself in a situation where we can make some noise. So it's going to be interesting to see. Again, there's just so many moving parts in this short window of the portal. Other news we got this morning was the big news with Warren Sapp coming on board. How do you think he fits into the staff, and what is obviously we know about him as a player. What does he bring to the table?
I think he brings exactly what Coach Prime is looking for: more fire from the coaching staff, more experienced guys who can speak to uh, all the players and speak their language and relate to them in a different way. So I think you retain Coach Sal Sinceri, who has all of this experience and knowledge in his background. Then you bring in a guy like Warren Sapp, who has all the experience and knowledge on the football field. Now you merge them together, let them work together to where, you know, these X's and O's can be merged with, this intensity and the intangible type things that Warren Sapp can bring to that defensive front. So with him and Big Phil Loadholt, two former players in the NFL, in practice, going at it with their lines, competing, I think that's going to bring out the best in that offensive and defensive line for Coach Prime, and that's what he's looking for.
Agree. It's a great hire to bring guys like that in. Sticking with the coaching staff, what do you think ends up happening with offensive coordinator? Because it sounds like he, I was surprised with the move of Sean Lewis because the offense was great. It was dynamic. Obviously he's moved on to San Diego State as the head coach out there. But when they made the move to Shermer, and I don't know if that was just, hey, we can't run the offense that we have right now with the personnel, because Shadur was just getting beat up because they couldn't protect him. Do you think? Where do you see what direction do you see the offensive going? Do you think they stick with Shermer? Do you think there's still some moves there? Because obviously, kind of an old school offense versus what Sean Lewis was trying to run.
Yeah, I think, but Sherman came in later in the season to make the play calls. But you got to realize he's not coming in with a whole different playbook. He's coming
Yeah.
in with the playbook that these guys have had, and now he's just picking maybe different plays or different rhythm type calling that he might have. You know what I mean? But I don't feel like that he had his full set of offensive schemes and personnel to work with. So he just tried to do the best that he can do. And I think Coach Prime saw that the offense was struggling to get started in a lot of those games, struggling for that chemistry to get going and just finding the flow. And so he wanted to go with Coach Pat Shermer. And a lot of people may be stuck on what Pat Shermer and I guess the lack of success he had in Denver and Cleveland and even with the New York Giants. But if you kind of dissect those situations, none of them where he failed or fired at, he had a established quarterback. None of
Mm-hmm.
those things. Eli was going out, of course, the Cleveland Browns, and then Drew Lock in Denver. But the ones in the pros where he did have a good quarterback, those guys had their best seasons with Pat Shermer. Donovan McNabb, Sam Bradford, his best season he played was with Coach Pat Shermer. So I think that's what Coach Prime is seeing: the scheme, the offensive mind that Pat Shermer is, and the connection and the relationship that he has with Shedeur Sanders. Um, I think he loves that. He wants that to grow and give Shedeur Sanders a chance, at least in college, to play with one offensive coordinator for more than half a season or a year or so. Let him have an off season with Coach Pat Sherman and see where that goes.
Correct. Yeah, I think we'll see. Having that full off season, having a guy with his experience, how they can go and shape that for 2024. Again, we'll start the countdown clock. We're a little over 8 months away before they kick it off on August 31st.
Right.
It's going to be here before we know it. I can't wait. But also the move to the Big 12. That's obviously the big one. We're going to see some of these Kansas State, have them back on the schedule. So it's going to be a fun year. So we are against the clock here, Chico. But before we run, tell folks where we can find you and all your great content. You've got your finger on the pulse with the Buffs more than anybody I follow.
Oh man, I appreciate it. You can follow me anywhere. You just type in BiggDogg Chico, BiggDogg Chico, and you should find my content, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm there. Holla at me, and I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. 98.1 FM. Check in each and every, is it Thursdays, right? Each and every Thursday.
Every Thursday we'll be here. Well, except for next week. We take it off. We're taking it off, but appreciate it. Yeah, just tune in to us. Tune in to Chico, my friend. Thanks for coming on. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and the family. Enjoy it.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
You got it. We'll do this again. So thanks again to Chico for coming on. We do have to take another quick break. On the other side, we're going to take a look at some bowl games, wrap up what's been a great 2023, look ahead to 2024.